All right, we are live on YouTube. Welcome. Thanks, Michael, for doing this evening. We have the last minute topic, right? I don't know. You came up with a couple of interesting things.
Yeah,
What
it's
did you?
always best when it's
Wasn't a
last
psychic.
minute.
It wasn't a psychic forest. What did you call it?
A dimensional forest.
Dimensional. You could say a multi-dimensional forest. Why limit it to the forest, right?
Oh,
Could be
that's
a.
where it's housed. It's where it's living. Let me put it that way. A living
Okay,
forest within a forest.
there you go. What were some of the other things I got to get over to a different window so I can see what it is? But oh, come on now, it just like made everything blow up here. What did you say? We talked earlier, and you said, "Well, what's the topic?" Because we always like see the pants, right?
Oh, that was like weeks
You had
ago.
a dimensional experience in a forest in April. So was
Yeah.
this why you kind of brought up the whole forest thing?
Yeah, it kind of was why I brought up the dimensional aspect because yeah, it's what happened in the forest. I even just finished writing it in a book and even writing it down in paper and looking at it, it's like no one's gonna believe this, but it really did happen.
So what happened? You get cliffhanger here.
So, do you want the full story or do you want the just the edited fun version?
Well, fun is good. Um, yeah, do the fun bit
All
because
right,
we might be
so
able to blow something out of from that point.
we were walking down this pathway and we had crossed a bridge with it's a moonlit night, but everything on the sides of the bridge were pitch black. You couldn't see or hear anything. And so we're walking across this bridge, and there's a path that leads to your left and goes straight. So we went straight, and as we're going forward, there's trees on both sides. So we're walking on a path in the middle of the forest, so to speak. And I hear what it sounds like almost I would describe as like monkeys jumping from tree to tree, but there are no critters in the trees. There's not a single bird in the forest. So I was hearing the movement in the trees, but the trees never moved. And I was like, okay, what's going on? Because why am I hearing what's not here? And it got me started to perk up and be like on guard, like shielded up and like kind of like you'd almost say like red alert scanning mode where you're looking everywhere because something is amiss. And I look to my left out of the corner of my eye and I see this white figure go blitzing by. And I look to my friends that I'm with, these two guys, and I go, "Did you guys just see that?" And they go, "See what?" I go, "I could have swore I just saw a lady in white just go by." And he goes, "Dude, you just saw the lady of the forest. Not many people see her." And I'm like, "What do you mean the lady of the forest?" And I'm like in my mind going, "Holy crap." So what I saw move that fast was really there moving that fast. Okay, what am I getting myself into? Because things were starting to move and I was like starting to feel like this is not an ordinary forest. So we turn around and we start going back towards the bridge. And when I remember when I started, so there was this path off to the left. Well, we turned right onto that path. And he made a special point to show me that this path dead ends into a river. And I was like, wow, I can actually see the river. I can hear the river. But it was, and we're like maybe I would say probably 50 yards from the bridge. And I'm like, this was blacked out on the bridge, but I can see it here. And there's less moonlight here than there was on the bridge. What is going on? And started to hear some stuff rustling around. And I was like, okay, where does this path go? He goes, well, it's going to lead over here, but that's not the path that you want to take. And I was like, why? He goes, you'll see. So we turn around and we start going back up this pathway towards another path. And this is where the night starts to take its most interesting turn. We're seeing what looks like bipedal shadows moving around, and as we get closer to them, we find out it's a trash can. Or it's a post that's like a gate, like a little entrance gateway where the gate is missing onto this path. And so we're like, I'm looking at my friend and I was like, we're dealing with shapeshifters. He goes, oh yeah. I was like, oh great. So I'm like, now I can't trust my eyes because I don't know what's what in front of me. And I start walking up this path and we take this curve and they stop and they're like, hey, do you want to go see this throne that's in the forest? And I was like, a throne made out of wood in a forest. Yeah, that sounds really cool. Let's check this out. So we take like a 5 minute walk over to this area, and all of a sudden this mist starts appearing. And it's not like a mist like you're feeling wet and that kind of mist. It's a more like a fog that's not a fog that's really light, but like you would see in like all the sci-fi magic movies where everything's about to change. That's what was actually really coming towards us. And I'm watching and we're talking on this app that they use, and he's sitting on this throne and he's like, so, do you think you could lead us out of here? I'm like, dude, it was a 5 minute walk in. Of course I can lead us out of here. And so he goes, all right, lead the way. I start walking away from where the throne chair is, and I look down and I look up, and the throne chair is I'm halfway to walking up to the throne chair. I have not turned. I have not done anything, but all of a suddenly I made a 360 or a 180 somewhere, and I'm walking back towards where I started. And I stopped and I said to them, wait a minute, how am I going back to where I started? I never turned. It's like if I made a correction on the path, like going straight, I may have went like that. Nothing that would cause me to do a U-turn, but yet I made a U-turn. And I'm like, what is going on? And so they just are snickering over there, laughing because I was told this area is like a dimensional portal area. And so I'm like, now I'm starting to get it because I'm moving in not normal ways. Perception's off. And so I'm like, I had to kind of close my eyes, center myself, and go, okay, I know the way out. I walked in. Let me walk out the way I walked in. And I had to trust myself that where I was walking was that way because I couldn't trust my eyes.
Hmm.
Because everything was starting to get distorted. Even though we're in a forest, there's nothing, there's no EMF around. There's no electric fields around or any electric power plants around. So it's like I couldn't say, oh, the EMF caused, this to happen. I mean, we are literally just surrounded by trees and water. So I'm going, okay. About 8 minutes later, we walk out. I find the exit. And I'm like, okay, here it is. And we're on the path. And they look at me and they're like, I'm impressed. I said, why? Because I got out in 8 minutes and figured out halfway that I was starting over and going back where I started. He goes, well, yeah, that, but the fact that you actually brought us out where we went in. We always end up further up the pathway. And I'm like, interesting. So I'm like, I'm digging this because I'm like, this is something I've never experienced. So I'm in like paranormal heaven going, this is all so cool. I don't know how I'm going to explain this, but it's so cool that I'm witnessing this firsthand.
Too bad you
Oh,
didn't have it recorded or something like that. But the other thing too is what forest was it? What area were you in?
we were in San Antonio, Texas, and I tried to record, but all the recordings would go only like a few feet in front of me, and then they would be like blackened out from the night sky, even though they normally go a lot further. So it was like something was preventing the image from being all the way. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of what happened, so to speak. So my friend and I start talking, and we're walking up this path, and we stop. And he goes, what do you see over there? I said, there's a path you can walk through and, go into that field area. He's like, yeah, you want to see something really cool though? I said, yeah. He puts a flashlight on. There is no path. There are branches all across there. And it's like, you can't, there's like, it's so thick too that there's not even a way you could step over them. And so I'm like, that's really weird. So my mind now, when I think about it, I'm like, that's a hologram. That when the light shines, the path disappears, where when there's no light, the path is there. And it's like, so which is the right image? Is there debris blocking it, or is there a path? And I'm sitting here thinking about this, and he's like, okay. So we walk a little bit further up, and he's like, okay, here, go, walk over here. So I walk through this path and I veer a little bit to the right, and in front of me is this bluish hue, like lit up like by the moon house, like a indigenous person's house. And I see people moving around, and I'm like, wow, I'm seeing a family's dwelling and a family here, but I can't go up to them because there's a barrier of branches in front of me. So he has me turn around and walk out, and he goes, now, remember how you walked in? I said, yeah. He puts the flashlight on. There were branches all across there. There was no way I could get to where I was standing. And here's the interesting thing. I never stepped on a twig. I never broke a branch. Nothing ever touched my legs. But yet, when you look at what's there, I would have had to walk through branches. I can't explain how I was walking through solid objects.
Well, I guess it kind of holds up the whole idea of that it is part of the belief system and part of your awareness, but it also has to do with, in conjunction with that, about how much of a control that we have that once we see something that we believe that it's there when we see it. So seeing is believing, but not really, because believing is a result of our seeing in our mind, not necessarily with our eyes. So when you saw that, it was almost like, because you saw it, if you tried to go through there, you're going to feel that stuff. But since you didn't see it, you didn't feel any of it. It didn't exist, so you were able to pass through that area. So it's kind of like that idea. You know what I mean?
Oh, it is,
It's
but
there, but it isn't. You've established it as something that you say that is solid, and technically, of course, nothing is really solid. It's just our perception of it is solid or liquid or however or whatever it is.
so you're gonna love this part. After we turned the flashlight off, I went back through it. Still didn't step on anything, didn't brush up against anything. But instead of turning right, I turned left and was like, I'm gonna go down further into the forest area and see what's down there. And I start getting tangled up in these thorny vines. And I have jeans on and I have like a jacket on, and my legs start getting cut up. I'm like, how are these thorns getting through my jeans? This is impossible. And they were starting to itch, and so I was like, all right, I'm not going through. And I give up, and I'm like, I had the intention now, I'm walking out. Sure enough, all the thorns just let me go. And I'm able to walk back out, and I'm brushing my legs because I'm like, I'm still feeling like I'm being scratched a little bit. And I look at him and I'm like, that was the strangest thing. And now when I think about it, I'm like, the forest didn't want me to go further. So it was like doing everything, it was throwing everything against me to stop me. Well, my friend proceeded to tell me a little tidbit of information that I should have had before I started this adventure into what's on the other side of that barricade. Was there's a little field that's very short, and then it's a drop off to a river. And it's not a slight drop off, it's a very deep drop. And he's like, you would have hurt yourself if you had gone through there and fell. And I was like, yeah. So I was like, something was watching out for me that I didn't cross over and lose my footing and fall and, you know, need to figure out how am I going to explain to a doctor how I fell into a riverbed that wasn't there. And so we were looking, and I said to him, I wonder if I go on the other side and then you put a flashlight on, could I come back through? And he looked at me and he's like, oh my God, this is deja vu. And I was like, what are you talking about? This can't be deja vu. This is my first time ever in this forest, and my first time ever to investigate with him because the other chance I had, I passed on because I was supposed to be a speaker and I didn't know when I was going to speak, so I wanted to be awake. But that's a story for another time. And so he goes and he says, you had asked me to do this experiment before. I remember you asking me, this spirit in this very spot, to do this experiment. And I was like, dude, I was like, you know, I bet it's probably possible because where we're at, everything's being distorted. That, yeah, we could be experiencing time dilation where we're seeing the present, reliving it in the past in the same moment because if there's dimensions going on here, why can't time be distorted? So I'm like, yeah, this very well could be one of those moments where the past is caught up with the present, or I mean, the future caught up with the present, and we're in that singularity moment. So we do the experiment, and I didn't. We turned the light on, and the branches did appear in front of me, but I don't think I tried to walk through them. I think I was like, nope, and then we turned the lights off and then I came back through, but we thought it was interesting that the light would still show me behind this object.
Hmm.
And so we're like, that's really interesting. So we start walking up the paths a little bit deeper, and I mean, we're walking at a pretty steady pace. So, we're like, we're gonna get through this and have time left over because, we're moving pretty quick. We're not wasting time. Apparently, we're going boom, boom, boom and chatting as we're walking. And all of a sudden, we get to this path that goes down to the left and it gets really dark at the end of it. And I start to turn and then I stop and he's like, "Yeah, you don't want to go down there. There's a nest of Wendigos over there. You don't want to go down there." I was like, "Nope, I don't want to mess with Wendigos tonight. We're gonna go this way." So we start walking, and all of a sudden my sensors go off in my neck, kind of like a spidey sense. And I'm like, "We're being followed. There's a Wendigo here." And he goes, "Yep, we're being watched." And I can sense them, but I can't hear them or see them. And we turn to this corner that's like a U-turn, but we're like halfway through it. And I look and I'm like, there's an entrance to an underground tunnel. And he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Look, there's like branches, but it goes dark underneath it. Like there's a path that goes down. So that's an underground tunnel entrance." And he goes, "Really?" And he puts his light on it. Solid ground. And like a few branches creating like a canopy over it. And I'm like, and then he turns the light off and there it appears again. I'm like, man, this place is really messing with my senses. And we start turning and we start to go up this pathway, and something is telling me as we're walking, look up. And I've been kind of keeping an eye on where the moon is so I can see how time is moving because, we all know the moon moves at a certain speed in the sky. It's a slow progression. Well, it had moved quite a distance in this short amount of time, and I noticed something I have never seen before. And I know when I say it, everybody's gonna like come at me like this is totally impossible. But I'm telling you, this is my experience, and I'm sharing exactly what I did see. I'm not making this up. But to the left of the moon is Orion's belt with Orion. To the right of the moon is Orion's belt with Orion. I'm seeing two Orions in the sky. And I look at my friend and I was like, "Where the hell are we?" He goes, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Look at the sky. Do you see Orion over there?" He goes, "Yeah." "Look over here on your right. You see Orion there?" And he goes, "Yeah." I was like, there is no possible way we can have two identical constellations in the sky at the same time. And he goes, "You're right." I go, "But it's right there." He goes, "Yeah, you're right." I'm like, "You're not helping me, dude." And I start to figure out something, and I'm like, these are mirrors. And he goes, "Well, we passed into the part of the forest that does mirroring effect to where whatever you're feeling, it's going to magnify itself out in front of you. So be careful of what you're feeling and thinking." And I'm sitting there looking up and going, that's why I see two constellations. One is mirroring the other, and the moon is the focal point. So keep focus on the moon. Everything's going to be okay. We can get through this. So we go up the path, and there's this little indigenous house that's up in ruins there, and we're looking there and sitting, taking a moment, and then we're like, well, let's go see if we can investigate somewhere else. We got a good feeling for this place. Let's head back out and see. Now, mind you, it was 11 p.m. when we entered this forest. So we walk down the path and we come around the corner, and the pathway in front of us is like this now. As we start walking, this concrete path moves over and becomes this, like a curve off to that side. And I look at him and I go, "You just saw that, right?" He goes, "Saw what?" I said, "The path was over like a foot in front of those trees and now it's like 10 feet over." He goes, "Yeah, I saw that move." I was like, "Concrete can't move. A sidewalk doesn't slide. You can't move it like that. It would break apart." Yet it was solid. And it started to light up. And we're like, what is going on here? And we start to see shapeshifters again at the end of the walkway. And he says, I got to tell you this story. This guy said, I'm going to the car. I can't handle this. And his wife is sitting there like, what are you doing? You're leaving me here. And so he goes and starts walking towards the car. And all of a sudden, they see this very tall, shadowy image coming towards them. And it turns out to be the husband. He shrinks as he gets closer. And he was like, that's why I showed you where that river was, is because this path has a tendency to disappear. And when we got there, the path goes like this. So you're there, and then it splits to where you can go to the right, which is the river edge, and the left is back where we were parked. Well, he goes and shares with me one night when we were in the spot we were standing in. He goes, I had three choices. And I'm like, I'm looking at him. I was like, there's one, two. There is no third choice. He goes, but there was. And I was like, how could there be a third choice? So paths appear out of thin air as well in this forest. And I was like, great. So we start heading out and we get to the bridge. And remember how I said the bridge was pitch black on both sides? You couldn't see or hear anything? On the now, as we're walking towards the cars, the right side, I can see all the water. I can hear the water flowing. It's a very active creek bed or river with a current. And I go and I'm like, okay, I can see this now. Can I see the other side? The other side is perfectly still as glass. And I'm like, I'm standing on a bridge. One side is rushing water. You can hear it moving over the rocks. The other side, perfectly still. There is nothing underneath a bridge that can stop moving water and make perfectly still water on the other side. And so I'm like, what is going on with this bridge? And we get to the cars, and what time do you think it is? Take a wild guess.
Was it a bewitching hour?
It was 3 a.m. in the morning.
It was the witching hour.
We were in there from 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. and we all thought we were in there for like an hour to an hour and a half at most. So this forest not only dimensionally changes itself and makes like hologram images appear, but it distorts time in such a fashion that you have no concept of it whatsoever. The sky is altered. I'm like, I have no idea how to say to anyone This is why this happened. I can't explain any of this experience other than saying I witnessed it firsthand. This is all my account, what I saw and experienced. So I have no reason to make any of it up because in my mind, I couldn't make this up. This is too out there to even like be like, yeah, let's make a joke and, say this. I'm like, there's just no way. It's so, and my friends that I was there with are like, wait till you come next time because as you get more comfortable there, it starts messing with you more and you'll experience more. And I feel like this is one of those places where if you don't do shadow work and you don't work on yourself and you go in there, you're probably not gonna get very far in there before you come running out and you're like, I'm losing my mind, and going nuts. Or it's gonna bring whatever you need to look at up and you're gonna face it in a way you're not prepared to face it. It has that much magic to the land, is what I feel like. And I'm talking the magic of MAGIK, not the illusionary magic, which is IC.
Yeah, that does make a difference. But the other interesting aspect of it too is you mentioned portals. It sounds like that there's a lot of that's going to be outside of those types of settings. It sounds like that there are portals that people are going to start experiencing a little more often outside of these established hot. I guess that's kind of like a hot zone of activity, or like you were saying, it's a perceptive thing though too. If they're saying that you have to have some good spiritual healing, you have to be a pretty solid being to go in there, otherwise you're gonna not have such a good time. But the other thing is too is you guys were there at night, so during the day those things are still there. However, what really was interesting is that you're talking about as you're walking through these paths and how they appeared to change drastically when you put even a flashlight. So it didn't even take natural light for the surroundings to change. And really, it's not even the surroundings that change, it's your perception of those surroundings. Because I don't think they really changed. It's the frequency that you adjusted to for that area, and that's what you're going to receive and perceive, right?
Well, and one thing I left out that kind of may agree and kind of at the same time contradict what you're talking about with the light is as we were turning the curve before we walked over to the throne, there was a tree that was curved over like an arch and it had branches across it as we're walking up. And as we got to where we were pretty much to where I could turn right and be looking straight on it, there were no branches anywhere near it. So, and we didn't shine a flashlight on it. It was just the natural light of the moon was like showing how, yes, there's something here. Wait, no, there's nothing here. You can enter now if you want. It's almost like I would say my friend puts it as the forest will test you. And so it's like they were like saying, we're ready for you to give you your test. The path is opened for you. And I was like, and I'm glad I was in the mindset that I was like, yeah, I'm walking in and I'm like, I have talked to my friend about this on a podcast episode previously, and he was sharing with me his stories of what's going on there. And he's had people actually disappear around him in there. And so I was like, ooh, am I gonna disappear? I'm like, and so I'm open to everything going on. And I think that's why it opened up and was like at the same time protecting me by not letting me go to where there's danger because they're like, you're so open, you're liable to keep walking and you're gonna go where you're not supposed to go and hurt yourself because you're so open to this place. And I was laughing with my friend when we started, and because he goes and says, okay, when you enter here, you have to empty your thoughts. You have to be calm and open to everything around you. And I looked at him and I was like, you do realize you're talking to probably the most open person walking around this world right now. I'm open to a lot of things. And he's like, just wait. So I was like, and I kind of had that cocky mindset too of anything this forest shows me, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I can explain this. I'll understand this. No.
So what did you find that you do you have plans to like go back? You said it was around San Antonio, right?
Right.
And what is there like special access? Because I know you're saying that these are indigenous friends. What is that particular tribe? Because I know that there are certain tribes that associate with the Wendigos. Um,
So the tribes that are there are multiple tribes, but they're not our dimensional tribes. Every tribe he's interacted with, he's like, they're not they were here, but they're not here now. And so in my mind, I started thinking like, could this be what happened with the Anasazi? That they just all disappeared as they figured out how to jump dimension and they're all on another dimensional plane looking at us kind of laughing that we haven't figured this out yet. And we're still thinking they just walked off somewhere but never left a trail or never left any clues where they went. And I'm like, that's a mystery to it. And he said he's narrowed it down to like five different realms that exist within this forest. And the second realm is the mirror realm. I forget what he calls the first realm, but each one will affect you in a spiritual way. So I mean, this is a place where you can just go. Even the police know about it. They don't know about it being like haunted and stuff, but if you say to them, "Hey, I'm looking for this bridge that's right in front of a forest," they're like, "Oh yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's a pretty nice area to walk around in." And I'm like, "Okay, cool,
during the
'cause
day,
that's
during the
just
day,
where I
maybe
was."
during the day.
But I mean, it's definitely one of those places that I would say if you're a beginner, just awakening to the world not being everything that you think it is around you, or experiencing the paranormal world for the first time, I would not pick this forest as the spot to go and be your initiation into the realm, so to speak. You gotta be really honest and authentic to yourself because I mean, there are so many moments when you're in there where you could just go, "Oh, I see this, I see that. Did you hear this? Did you hear that?" Like a TV show. And I feel like the forest will just shut itself down and be like, "You're not real. You're not ready for this." And so they'll either shut it down and like give you nothing, or I feel like they're gonna turn around and go, "So you're gonna make a joke out of us? We'll make a joke out of you." And my friends were telling me too when they first started going through there. One was in a really bad space, and he spent one night walking through the forest and came out and he was completely different. He was like, he changed his mindset about everything, his personality changed. It was like the forest did something. And so that's why whenever I talk about the forest, I'm like, yeah, you need a guide. Everybody I talk to that's gone through this has gone through it with them. And so you need, this is one of those few rare places that, yes, it's free to get to, but I would seriously, seriously recommend not going through this by yourself because you can get lost in there. Because
Even during the day, you think?
absolutely, I think during the day, he has told me stories of when he would go during the day and he would be walking on a path and be like, wait, isn't there supposed to be a, he would turn around and come back and he's like, isn't there supposed to be a path here? And the path will be somewhere else. So it still will play tricks on you during the day. It may not be as noticeable, like, you won't see the two constellations in the sky, but it is playing tricks on you, even
That's kind of
daytime
like,
and nighttime.
yeah, it's probably like more like a disorienting type thing. But you mentioned something about shape shifting. And when you started talking about, and you did mention Wendigo, but I immediately thought of like a skinwalker, because of the shape shifting, um, not not nice, not particularly nice, not ones that you really want to associate with. And I don't know what tribes people that are in that particular area of Texas. I don't know, are Navajo out there or anything, or
Navajo are more in New Mexico.
okay, further, a lot further south then and
Um,
west.
yeah, they're more in the Southwest where the main Indian tribes that would be around San Antonio would be like Comanche and Apache. So
Okay,
the
because I
Plains
think the
Indians.
Wendigos are more associated with like the Algonquins, closer to like Canada and whatnot. Ontario, we're close to Ontario where I'm at, so I thought that was
Hmm.
kind of interesting because
Well,
I don't I'm not sure that Wendigos are really known for shape shifting. Not sure, but I know the skinwalkers are.
and I don't know that the Wendigos were the shapeshifters, actually. I think they were two separate. What I ended up viewing the shapeshifters as, in my opinion, and I'll probably go and add this in the book now that I'm talking about this, well, before it gets edited, is you hear about a lot of places, and I've kind of experienced this myself, to where when you're entering a really sacred place, there are guardian spirits there that protect it, and if you're not there for the right reasons, they won't let you enter. And so I feel like these shapeshifters, because they were at the beginning of the path, were sitting there and saying, okay, are you ready for the test? Are you ready for what's to come? Or are you one of those that's, you know, gonna pose and say, yeah, I'm ready. You can throw anything at me. And then it's like the first second they're running, screaming for the hills. And you're like, what happened? I thought you said you were ready and could face anything. And so I think it's like kind of like, ooh, I just had the perfect analogy. If you remember your 80s movies, The Never Ending Story,
Yep.
the two statues at the end that he had to walk through, and if you weren't pure of heart, they would kill you
Zap,
before you
yeah,
got
they'd
through.
zap you.
And so that's what it felt like is I was walking between these two tower guardians and they shapeshifted into an object. So I would supposedly let my guard down and think, "Oh, there's nothing there." And then they would be like, "Oh, we got you." Well, I didn't let my guard down. I was like, "You're not really a trash can or you're not really a post." Or vice versa is you're not really a shapeshifter. You were this, and you were something was trying to play a trick on my mind to make me think this. And so they were like, "Oh, we can't get you. All right, you're questioning things, so we're gonna let you pass because you're just what we need in here. You are ready." Because I think that's what the tests and everything is, and all the experiences are about is, are you going to blindly accept what you see, or are you going to question it and go, how can this be? This is impossible, but I've seen it, so I know it's possible, but yet I still can't wrap my head around this and keep yourself balanced and not go crazy.
Yeah, and that's a really good point that you make about not believing what you see. I'm not kidding. I'm going through some of the notes that I've written over the last 2 or 3 years, and one of the things that came up was and actually came across too some feeds and whatnot about, it used to be seeing is believing was the standard phrase. Seeing is believing, but really our belief systems are strong enough that we believe something strong enough, we will see it. You believe something long enough and strong enough, and it's cemented into you that you put it there, that it's definitely something that it will manifest. It will manifest. You may not on a conscious level realize it, but it's definitely something that seeing is not believing, but your belief system is definitely going to provide your vision. So that's
Well,
all kind of part of it too.
yeah, and what's interesting too is I just realized is growing up, I would always get what I felt like was riddles from my guides and readings. Like I even would like pick on them and be like, "Really, you guys are gonna give me a riddle when this guy over here asks what's going on?" You're like, "Well, look for a red truck that's this or that." But when I ask a question, my answers are stuff like, well, when you learn to see without your eyes, you'll understand what's going on. I'm like, what do you mean see without seeing what's in, what is that? I'm like, why can't I get a look for a red car? And they were kind of laughed at me and they said, well, because you wouldn't understand that. You wouldn't feel challenged by that. I was like, well, yeah, but still. And so it's like it's been popping in my head lately is that phrase, see without seeing. And I'm realizing, how I'm starting to look at things going on around, and I'm like, yeah, I'm seeing stuff and perceiving it not as how I'm being shown, but as I guess my filters, so to speak, are seeing it, and I can't explain how I'm seeing it differently, even though we're looking at the same thing. Like, I could say, through your doorway to the left, it looks like a dark doorway to a hall. And to me, it's like it's darker and a little bit lighter and darker. And you're probably looking at it going, dude, it's the same. It never changes. But it doesn't mean one of us is wrong. It just means we're both seeing the same thing with different perception filters. So I may be perceiving the light changing in the room where you're used to it, so you don't give it any thought. And you're like, nope, it is what it is. And so we're both right, but yet we're both wrong. And so that's where I find the beauty in learning and doing all these experiments and going to these type of places is because you're challenging your mind to go and say, I saw this. I know I saw this. But yet, under these conditions, it's not there. How can something be there and not there at the same time? And so that's where I think the true awakening and the true, if you want to call it ascension or evolution or anything, whatever term you want to call it, that's part of it is it's our mind opening up to saying, like you were saying, look at your perception. You're perceiving the branches are there with the light on. So you are like, the branches are there with the light on. You're perceiving the path open when the light's off. So you're not going to sit there and go, well, the branches are there, but they're not there. You go, there's no branches. There's no question. There's nothing there. So both perceptions can't be right. Both perceptions can't be wrong. And I think that's what we're learning is there is no right, there is no wrong. It's a perception. So it's almost like I'm starting to hear the term oneness again and returning to a whole one self.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's where that is when you can look at a scenario and look at your environment and say, I can see it this way, I can see it this way, I can see it this way, and they're all right, they're all wrong because they're all perceptions I have. And when you realize they're just your perceptions, then you realize I can perceive anything I want there. So therefore, that's the oneness, is where your environment is one with you. However you perceive it, it is. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. And there's no, like, I can't go to you and say, hey, I'm going to take you to that forest so you can see this, so you can experience it yourself. Because if you're not ready, you won't.
Hmm.
And you're going to go even more so and say, look, I was there. Nothing of what you said happened. And so it's like, in essence, I'm actually pushing you further from that truth because I'm trying to force you to see it and you're not ready to see it, not seeing it. So your mind is going, okay, I was there now. I went and experienced this location for myself. Nothing happened. Therefore, this person either is making it up or is half a bubble off or something. You're going to come up with a way of going, I don't trust this person anymore. There's something off. Maybe he was high or something. And, you're going to come up with all these reasons and it's going to like drive a wedge between when in reality, you both were seeing the right thing, the same thing. And so that's why I think it doesn't work when we try to force people to awaken or open their minds because if they're not ready, they won't, no matter what you do.
Right. And I think that was kind of reinforced by when he said if you go back, it's gonna actually have a little bit, it's not necessarily going to be a bigger challenge. It's just going to be a different challenge. So if you do go in there, you might, and you're not in a good headspace, you could experience something that would be a little less than desirable. But, then again, you just may choose just not to go.
No, I know. And I'm wanting to get down there, but at the same time, I'm like, it's 5 hours one way to get there. And I'm like, that's a long drive. Just, and then it's like, you got to get yourself rested up for it. And it's like, you're going to be spending the night. And it's like, you got to coordinate their schedules with your schedule. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and so it's where the phrase divine timing comes in. Because it was like when I was there, I had put out to everybody, hey, I'm going to be in San Antonio. And he was the only one to respond. So I went and hung out with him. And then I had a friend that said, I didn't know you were in the area. I would have wanted to hang out. And so I was like, all right, next time I'll make sure you know when I'm going to be over there. And I was like, have you experienced this spot? No. And I'm like, well, I'm not taking you. For one, I couldn't tell you where it is because I've only been there once and I need to be at least two or three times in an area that's not my normal area to be able to go, oh yeah, I know it's you turn here, and you go up this road, and boom, there it is. It's like, yeah, I'm not that good with directions of not my area.
Yeah, wow. Well, I hope you are able to, kind of get back over there. It would be interesting to see how different that experience would be to, what you had more recently. You said you were there in April. So even the seasons, I'm wondering if even the seasons would make a difference on what you would encounter at that point,
That's
but
true because that was, I guess, technically springtime,
mhm.
and I'm not going in summertime because, no offense, but Texas, y'all do not understand. Texas, our summer, we can be 105 in the daytime and 90 at night when the sun
Mhm.
has been down for a while. We
Mhm.
don't drop down like most states where it's like, oh, hot in the day, cold at night. We no, we are hot and just less hot.
Yeah.
So everybody I know that paranormal investigates in Texas is like, if there's no AC, we are taking off the month and we are doing nothing until the temperatures drop.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel ya. Well, I've already dropped your bio. The last one I had anyway, your link tree thing is in there. I put it in the description box below.
Oh,
And
cool.
that's where you can, yeah, that's where you can go ahead and contact Michael if you've got it, because I know you do a lot of other uh shows throughout the week and mostly about paranormal. Is there anything else, any other topics that you kind of touch on or no?
So Tuesday nights is the energy that surrounds us, and that's the paranormal or anything unexplained show that I have. And on Wednesday nights is Writing Through the Unknown, which is my disclosure esoteric type show. And by that I mean I look at topics that most people don't want to look at, or topics that have been in history, may have been mentioned in the newspaper once and then disappears. And I'll get a hold of it and I'll be like, why did it disappear? And so I'll
Mhm.
start looking at what don't they want us to know about that and find guests to go with the topics. And so that 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 show is like a side passion of mine, and it's a discovery of stuff too about things that we experience that we don't even know we've experienced. So it's a really cool experience, and a lot of different topics get discussed from Antarctica to space to all kinds of things around. So you never
I don't
know.
know.
I
You've
even
had
did
some
a,
really interesting guests in the past on that as well. So definitely worth looking
yeah,
at some of the
we
stuff
did
you've
one
done.
on the Titanic and or the truth around the Titanic, or the truth as we see it, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's really kind of fun to try and find people that have. I mean, obviously, you're not going to have firsthand people that were involved with the Titanic, but there has been a lot of investigation more recently that people who have had access to some of the information that, because I know they went down. I don't know if that was actually the ship. They did like a big thing several years ago about having not that it had anything to do with the multi-dimensional forest, but it's kind of the same type of thing where there's this deception going on, where I believe they were saying that the ship they were photographing was not the actual Titanic, that they showed that it was a different ship, but didn't. You know what I mean? It made it look like
Yeah.
it was that. So yeah, so I don't know if yeah. So that kind of stuff is really good, that when something's presented, that you go back and why isn't this relevant anymore? That's a really, really good, really good perspective to take on things. Like
Yeah,
getting
and
people
then
that are close to that stuff, that's really, really cool. And Arctic too. That's another one that, seems like everybody and their brother has something to say about it, but it's good to talk to people who've actually stepped foot on it.
right. And then Thursday afternoons, twice a month, I get together with Kel in the UK, and now Anuk has joined us from North Carolina. So there's three of us now on Paranormal Verses, and we kind of talk about paranormal and paranormal conspiracy theories more on that show. And so we're broadening our horizons on that show and getting challenging topics. And then soon we'll be starting up a show that you're on that I'm on, and that's Thursday nights. Get to hang out with Emily and Daniel and the B System crew.
Yeah, that'll be good to restart that. That'll be really, really good, especially with the recent developments that are, still coming into play. I don't think it's going to stop. It's just going to really kind of be very different, I think, over the next 5 to 10 years.
Oh yeah, I think everything we think we're seeing is not what we're seeing, and there's games being played within games, and somebody has famously said that like in the figure of chess, if you look at it as a chessboard, that our president right now is like 5 chess moves ahead of everybody else, and he's already figured out how to checkmate and trap everybody in the checkmate who needs to be checkmated and exposed, and he has everything, and he's just doing it in a very small but powerful way of getting people to look at it going, so wait a minute, this really is happening. What else is going on around us that we've been lied to about, and starting to wake up to it, so to speak. And people are starting to take interest again into what's going on around us and not buying into the story and not buying into the fear driven anymore and stopping and saying, wait a minute, we've been down this road. We know where this road goes. We're not doing this again. And it's irritating some people. And so it's like, yeah, it's really interesting to see the dynamics shifting now. And who knows where we're going to go from here. And
Well, I think one of the things that is getting sidelined in a little bit, as I know that it is in the forefront of people's minds, kind of, sort of, is the whole concern about uh, being monitored and the involvement with AI. So I'm going to do a live tomorrow with Augie Nost again about AI. And we're just going to talk about, what that means, who's involved, who's funding this stuff. There's a lot of data collection centers and areas that are kind of there's suggestion that some of these weathered areas that they're evacuating people from is the real estate that's needed for data centers for information collecting. So this gets really, really deep
Yeah.
outside of this paranormal, but it is going to kind of pull us away from experiencing things that I wish there was a different word for paranormal because I think it is just normal without being normal. It's not something that we've been cut off from. It's like
Mhm.
having a hose. It's like having a kink in your hose. There's no water coming through it. There's water there, but we gotta unkink those hoses and get the information flowing. So everybody who is able to do any of that kind of disclosure in any of those aspects, it's going to catch people's attention and
Oh yeah.
bringing up news stories that, like you said, that people are, hey, they were talking about that a hot minute ago. Where is it? And I brought that up a couple times too. What happened to the orbs and the drones and the Miami Mall aliens and what happened to the gold? Nobody's talking about the gold anymore. I was like, what happened? So it's good. Keep those stories alive. Ask the aftermath questions because that that's important. That's all. It's all part of that chessboard that you were talking about. Definitely
Well,
all
and
part of that.
the important thing too to look at is look at what emotions those stories brought up because like you were saying, the mall deal with Miami, how much fear came of that. That I feel like because we took the fear out of it and we're like, it wasn't what we thought it was, and it's like, I almost want to say like false flag kind of deal to where people had turned from being afraid of it to angry about it. So there's no more fuel for the story.
Hmm.
So you want that story to disappear because you don't want to
Yeah.
bring the fear back. And
Well,
so,
but though too, it's like the whole thing with the drones, why or the gold. Any of the stories that have been brought up into people's awareness. Why aren't they talking about what's the end? They bring up the topic and then something else comes up and everybody shifts. Right now, it's all about the earthquakes and the weather bombs and weather manipulation and how poisoned everything is. So it's kind of like it seems to have these what's peaked now. And when you normalize things, when something does come up, like another thing is too, how many times have you seen people post things about seeing more than one sun?
oh,
I've personally driving into work, I've seen more than one, you know? So what's up with that? I mean, I believe there's like maybe a portal up over there somewhere. I've seen things go into that. And other people in like in a neighboring city were saying, "Hey, I saw this thing." And somebody said, "Oh, well, it's Starlink." And it's like, really? Starlink is not as short as what this thing was, and Starlink doesn't disappear
yeah,
halfway across the sky. That was something different. And you can kind of see like an outline. It wasn't like a tic tac, but it did look like some sort of a transportation thing.
yeah. The
But
moon
yeah,
too.
huh?
The moon too.
Yeah,
People
I
are
mean
starting to
that's
talk
it's
about the moon.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, and everybody's got their different, and again, it's like putting the flashlight or taking the flashlight off. Just like when you walk down that path, one person's going to see this, another person's going to see that without the light. And they're going to say, "You're nuts," and you're going to say, "You're nuts." And how about everybody has a perspective that's not necessarily right or wrong? It's just something that is, but that's part of the manipulation where the veil needs to be ripped.
Well, and one thing I don't know if you're aware of, but I learned about the moon because we're all taught in school that it broke off of the Earth when a meteor hit, and that's why it is what it is.
Is that why
That
there's a seam on it?
the indigenous people have stories of what the world was like before the moon.
Before.
And
I
so,
think there's
how are
stuff in
there?
Sanskrit too.
Yeah. So, how do we have these stories of pre-lunar times if this is a celestial object that came from us? How can that be? Because that would have been at creation point. of the planet. So wait a minute, how do we have stories that say there was never a moon in the sky until this point? And it's like, wait a minute. Well, if that's true, then not only the fact that it dings like a bell, so it's hollow, which a celestial object is never hollow. It's like it's like more information pushing towards the quote unquote conspiracy theory that the moon is not a celestial object, but a spaceship, kind of like a Death Star almost kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
Where I don't think they're going to blow up our planet from it, but there is a reason why I think that spaceship is there. And that's the term I'm going to use for the moon is spaceship. And
Even the sun is coming into question. Not that this has
yeah,
anything to do with a multidimensional forest, but it does. I think the sun, they were saying, well, it's plasma. I have seen like I haven't looked into it recently, but I recall reading about how the sun itself is not hot. There are some that I think Bruce sees all. He does a lot of videos of the sun and has video footage of craft going into landing. Some of them are absolutely ginormous, the craft. And he talks about how these things are coming and going. But my thing is, why is it that these sunspots never move? They're always in the same place. You can't see them looking at them because it's too bright. What it exactly is, nobody knows. There was that story too about the sun where the Chinese made a sun.
yeah,
Don't know about that. I don't know if that's true, but it is kind of interesting to use that as a concept. But the other thing about the sun also is that it does not, because it's cloudy out, it does not heat itself directly. It has something to do with an energetic interaction with the ether and what the sun is. So it's not heat itself, it's not hot itself, but there's some sort of interaction that it has. I don't know in what respect, but it has an interaction where it does get the atmosphere to heat up. That's what makes things hot. They try to say, oh, in summer is this because you're closer or your angle is more direct with the sun. I don't think that's accurate. There's something else that's going on. It's the story and the narrative that needs to be opened up,
yeah.
dry,
Because look at the
exposed.
fact you can have a cloudy day and you can still get a sunburn even though there's no sun.
Hmm.
So how, if you have to have sunlight to beam rays down on a day where there is no sun, can you still get the effects of the sun?
Yep. And they're trying to say that the moon has its light based because it's a reflecting off of the sun. I disagree with that because if you have the sun interacting with our atmosphere and heating things up, but if you put something out in moonlight, the moonlight will actually cool it off. You put it in the moon shade, it will warm up. It's like a couple of degrees warmer. You can do that experiment yourself if you want, but it's pretty easy to do, and I've done it. And yes, it is warmer in the shade when there's moonlight out. It's cooler in the moonlight. So the
Yeah,
moon is its own light source. It's not a being reflected because if that sun, and I noticed the sun is yellow again.
I
Sometimes it's
know it
really
goes
white.
yellow,
Now it's
orange,
yellow again.
white. It keeps changing color.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as a kid, I mean, for the longest time, it was white. Now it's yellow. But again, too, I have seen more than one sun driving into work. It doesn't happen every day, but we get a lot of cloud cover and it's supposed to be full moon. And explain that to me too. How can we see? Oh, it will appear to be a full moon for it was like for a freaking week. It's like, really? Uh,
Well, not only that, but remember how the sun is day, moon is night. Now you have sun and moon at the same time. So are we living in a day and night at the same time kind of world now?
And
Do we
and
not
two
have
and
night and day?
right, and you're talking about this whole thing of this rotation, and again, if the moon were, going around this way, you'd see different aspects. If the moon were spinning on its own axis, you would see different aspects based on that rotation. Is it consistent? Is it not consistent? Either way, you would see that dark side of the moon. We don't. It's always the same. So
Well,
that's the other thing too. The same thing with the sun. It's the same aspect. It doesn't shift. It doesn't rotate. We're supposed to be rotating around the sun. I don't see that because there are those sunspots, same spot, same location. Doesn't matter the time of year. Same spot. Weird.
here's one too for you, real quick, and we can do a whole episode on the
I
moon.
know, right? Let's do
Is
that.
you look at Saturn and Jupiter and all the other planets that have moons, and their moons do not affect their planet. Like, look at Jupiter. The red spot that's a storm is always in the same spot when we see photos of it. The it
That's the thing. So here's the gig. I remember listening, this was a few years ago. There was a guy he had got a telescope. He was an astronomer. He went out and got this really nice telescope. He started looking at all these astral bodies, and he's nothing's making sense. So he went to a colleague and he asked this guy, he's going, who had this full degree and was working in whatever place in astronomy, and he's asking him, well, what have you discovered about whatever he was looking at? And he's going, what are you talking about? He says, this is how, he says, because nothing's matching. He was looking at everything in the sky and all the different points. He says, this isn't quite right. And he's going, what are you talking about? It's right here. And the dude was looking on a piece of paper. And it's kind of like, well, no, I got to tell it. He goes, I don't have a telescope. Dude, he had like a doctorate. He never used a telescope. You're going to look at paper the whole
yeah,
freaking time. It's like, you got to be kidding me. So one of the things that kind of conversation inspired me, and it's just with my cheap as all little old crappy phone, taking this outside and doing little short, like 10-15 minute videos of this thing that they are calling Jupiter. It's not what I see. What you are seeing when they're showing these photographs are actually CGI. It's
yeah.
all CGI, all of that stuff. I have not seen one legit photograph, not a photograph. I have photographs of what I see. I have short movies of what I see with me, my eyes, that phone, and I got a little bit different phone that's got a couple of more pixels on it. And I want to go out on a clear night. And one of these nights I'm gonna have the opportunity to really do some good stuff. Get connect my phone to a really cheap telescope and get it pointed up in the sky so we can really see it. I will post those. This is legit. We got to get away from all the CGI and consumerism, if you will. It's easy bits and pieces of this stuff. And it drives me freaking crazy that people are just going to sit back in their armchairs and believe what they see because somebody has alphabet soup after their name. And that does, to me, that doesn't mean anything. That is almost like less credentials. I'm going to get rid of my alphabet soup after my last name. Because I do. I have some. I can use that. I'm not going to. We need to be real. We need to be who we are, and that to me is my own research. You going into that forest is your real deal research. I'm kind of bummed that you weren't able to get like film footage of it. So hopefully you will have the opportunity, Michael, to go back down there and get something that will cement this, not just for yourself, but for other people and inspire them to kind of, you know, take the bull by the horns, as it were. And in Texas, you got those longhorns out there, so good luck
I
with
know.
that.
We don't do just ordinary horns here.
No, no, no. All right, my friend, we will wrap this up for the evening. Thank you so much. This will get posted out onto Rumble at some point. I got a few things going on here, but I'm having fun with this. I hope you are too.
I
Um,
am.
yeah, hot diggity. Uh, please do like, share, subscribe for both of us. Check out Michael's multiple and varied posts. And yeah, we got to get Emily to start ramping that up if she's able to do so. That's
She's
always
wanting
fun.
to. She's just getting through some stuff, and so
Yep. Yep.
well, I
Yep.
think she's looking at August or September restarting.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. All right. Everyone, have a great time, and we will